Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This interaction covers the authority of off-duty officers, identification laws, and criminal trespassing, and is brought to us by Savage Moto 24's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I want to give a big thanks to the sponsor of this episode, Surfshark. If digital security is your top priority, then Surfshark has you covered. Surfshark's multi-hop feature allows you to connect to the internet via 2 different VPN servers, and most of the time, these servers are located in different countries. So for example, you can make your VPN connection even more secure and private by connecting to servers in the United States and Germany, instead of just a US server. If you're an activist who wants to stay as far away as possible from government tracking, or a journalist trying to protect your sources, the extra security and anonymity of Surfshark's multi-hop feature will ensure that you are safeguarded. Right now, Surfshark is offering the ATA community an 83% discount with an additional 3 months completely free. With 24-hour customer service and a 30-day money-back guarantee, you have absolutely nothing to lose. So click the link in the description to claim your exclusive offer now. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this episode. This is yet another interaction where the details are scarce, and I was unable to locate any news articles or public cases regarding this encounter. The original video was posted on May 16th, 2020, but judging by the scenery, it seems that this interaction happened in the colder months. It is clear from the video that this encounter took place somewhere near the town of Brookville, Pennsylvania, but the exact location is unknown. The video shows 21-year-old Kyle Hamilton and his 23-year-old friend Jason Idom riding their dirt bikes through back roads and gravel paths before deciding to follow a trail off of the main roadway. Shortly after entering the trail, Mr. Hamilton notices a vehicle down the pathway and stops, but Mr. Idom continues riding down the path and speeds past the stopped vehicle. Mr. Hamilton hesitantly follows his friend, but stops when he is flagged down by the citizens near the car.
Trespassing. I'm a state trooper. I'm going to throw you in jail unless you turn it off right now and talk to me.
Well, I'll just leave right now.
No, you're going to turn it off and talk to me.
I don't know if I can start this bike back up.
I don't care. You trespass. It's defined trespass. It's a misdemeanor, up to 3 years in jail. Turn your bike off now.
Can I just set it down? Like,
no. Show me your ID.
I don't have any on me.
Where you live?
Right off of Brookville, right in Brookville, right by
See all the signs around here?
Yeah.
Then you're trespassing. Take your helmet off.
Look, I'm just gonna leave.
No, you're not gonna leave. And neither is he. Turn your bike off. If you turn your bike off, I'm gonna arrest you. Turn your bike off. Just turn your bike off.
At this point, the trooper has effectuated an investigative detention of Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom, and Pennsylvania courts have generally permitted off-duty officers to act within their official capacity in most circumstances. Many higher courts from all across the country have ruled on the expectations and limitations of off-duty officers, and the general consensus is that an officer's authority does not end when they clock out. For example, in the 1980 Florida 5th District case of State versus Robinson, the court held that, quote, an officer's off-duty status was not a limitation upon his right to exercise police authority in the presence of criminal activity, end quote. And the logic of the Robinson case was later used by the Florida Supreme Court. Higher courts from nearly every circuit have reached similar conclusions, but some states, such as Montana and North Carolina, do draw a distinction between an officer's on- and off-duty authority, depending on whether the officer is acting as a private person. This distinction can become critical when the issues of liability arise from an officer's off-duty conduct. In the 2003 Texas 1st District Court of Appeals case of Morgan versus City of Alvin, the court held that the city was not liable for an officer who was sued while working a side job as a security guard because he was not acting on the city's behalf at the time of the incident. New York's 1st District reached a similar conclusion the same year in the appeals case of Schilt versus New York Transit Authority, and held that officers whose conduct is, quote, wholly personal in nature cannot be said to fall within the scope of his employment, end quote. The foundation for these state cases is built upon common law, which states that, quote, a police officer on off-duty status is nevertheless not relieved of the obligation as an officer to preserve the public peace and to protect the lives and property of the citizens of the public in general, end quote. Pennsylvania courts lean on the common law's logic, and in the 1995 Pennsylvania Superior Court case of Pennsylvania versus Gomer, the court plainly stated that, quote, "We find no explicit limitation of the authority of a state police officer to make a traffic stop or arrest only when the officer is on duty and or in uniform," end quote. In the 1997 case of Pennsylvania versus Kiner, the court clarified that when an officer makes it plainly apparent that they are a member of law enforcement, then they are acting within their official capacity and not as a private citizen. Some departments have even went as far as drafting policies on off-duty conduct by their officers. Although it could be argued that the trooper was enforcing a personal interest because he owned the property, Pennsylvania state police troopers have jurisdiction over the entire state, and the trooper did witness what he believed to be a criminal act. We will discuss whether Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom were criminally trespassing in a moment, but it is important to highlight that it is entirely possible that the trooper was within his authority to detain them, because he clearly witnessed what appeared to be a crime taking place. The trooper accuses Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom of trespassing and orders the two to present their identification.
You both are trespassing.
We literally just got here.
No, I got pictures of you driving all over this place. Okay? You've been here many times. You were here on Saturday. You're defiant trespass. If I call the troopers out here, you're going to jail.
All right.
Let me see your IDs. Take your helmets off.
Pennsylvania is one of the few states that has no laws requiring citizens to present their name or identification to officers, regardless of whether they have been arrested or suspected of committing a crime. At no point during a police interaction are citizens in Pennsylvania required to tell an officer who they are or show their ID unless they are driving. It should be noted that although citizens are not required to show their ID, refusing to identify yourself can result in a prolonged detention or arrest, as officers are allowed to detain citizens until they are identified. Assuming that a court found that the trooper was acting within his official capacity, Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom would be under no legal obligation to present their identification, but the trooper would be within his authority to detain them until they were identified, or police arrived, or both. Given the trooper's intimate knowledge of the land, it is likely that he would have reasonable suspicion that Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom were trespassing because he knows where his property begins and ends and who belongs on it, facts which are not necessarily exclusive to the ownership of the property. We will discuss the intricacies of Pennsylvania's trespassing laws in a moment, but it should be recognized that although the trooper likely does have reasonable suspicion, Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom are not required to give the trooper their ID or tell him who they are.
Well, take your helmets off. I want pictures of you both. Where do you live? How old are you?
21.
How old are you?
Older than that, 27.
Oh, so you guys are going to jail.
I mean, we don't
You can't just ride motorcycles on private property.
You know, I wasn't the one who even found this. People.
I don't care. I own it.
Okay. I understand. I'm sorry.
And I have pictures of both you. You were here Saturday. Give me my phone.
I don't know if I was here Saturday.
Yeah, you were here Saturday. Take your helmet off.
Why can't we just leave? I mean, we won't.
Hey, Matt, get my badge. All right, you won't play that game. You're going to lose. Take your helmet off.
I'm just asking out of
Take your helmet
respect.
off.
I mean, we'll take our helmets off. What's the big deal? I mean,
What do you mean? Who do you think pays the taxes here?
I understand that.
Take your helmet off.
People ride at my place all the time.
Yeah, well, you didn't ask for permission.
People don't ask permission here either. Well, we saw
Well,
that.
if I catch you.
Did you make that sign up there that says respect the area?
No.
Oh.
All the yellow posted signs that
Because
are all over
we
here.
figured that sign.
600 acres.
Yeah, I mean, there's.
You just can't ride your motorcycles, your dirt bikes where you feel like it.
The trooper goes on to say that Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom are criminally trespassing by ignoring the posted signs, and that they could possibly be jailed for doing so.
On posted property. Yeah. If somebody tells you verbally not to come on, or it's posted, it's not a summary offense. It's a misdemeanor. You can go to jail.
Like most of the state's legal system, Pennsylvania's trespassing laws are structured differently from the majority of the country. Section 3505 of Title 18 of the Statutes of Pennsylvania divides the act of criminal trespassing into several categories, and subsection B, defiant trespassing, is the one that would apply to Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom ignoring the no trespassing sign. The statute states that a person commits an offense if, knowing that he is not licensed or privileged to do so, he enters or remains in any place as to which notice against trespass is given by actual communication, posted signage, posted notices, or identifying purple paint marks on trees or posts on the property. Considering that Mr. Hamilton blatantly admitted to knowingly entering the property without permission despite seeing the no trespassing signs.
See all the signs around here?
Yeah.
Then you're trespassing.
it is likely that he would be found guilty of trespassing if he were officially charged. All that said, the trooper is exaggerating the consequences of violating the criminal trespass statute. Subsection 2 of the statute states that unless a trespasser defies an order to leave personally communicated to him by the owner of the premises, then the violation is a summary offense, which is the most minor type of criminal offense in Pennsylvania. It is clear that Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom were compliant with the trooper and willing to leave the property after having been verbally warned, and it is doubtful that they would face any jail time if they were arrested and convicted.
We saw that sign. I thought
You
whoever.
saw what? Did you see the no trespass sign?
Well,
Everyone, like I probably know 30 people that come here.
Okay,
right?
well, you tell them, guess what?
I will now.
A state trooper's here.
I will now.
And their will go to jail.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, because we've talked to other homeowners before, and
I don't give
I know. I'm just saying. I thought maybe.
I throw their in jail.
Well, no. I'm saying on their property because we've gotten permission from other people to ride other
You
places.
get if you'd have asked, you just don't trespass.
Yeah.
Matt, give me your phone. Mine's dead.
The trooper proceeded to take a photo of each of the riders and demand that they state their name. The riders complied, and the trooper reminded them of the consequences of being dishonest.
Jason Item.
What's your name?
I'm Kyle. I don't.
If I find out different, guess what? The troopers are going to be knocking on your door.
After questioning the legality of their bikes, the trooper continued to scold the riders for a few minutes before eventually calming down. Once the trooper regained his composure, he and the riders were able to make peace, and the riders left the scene without further incident. I was unable to locate any further details about the conclusion of this interaction, so if you have any updates, comment below and I will post them in the description. Overall, the Pennsylvania State Trooper gets a C-, because although he was likely within his authority to detain and investigate Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom, he used his police powers as a scare tactic, misrepresented the gravity of a trespassing charge, and behaved in an unprofessional manner while acting in his official capacity. Most of the trooper's actions were motivated by the anger of someone trespassing on his property rather than enforcing the law, and that was clearly demonstrated by the trooper's attitude and emotional outbursts. It is difficult to fault the trooper for being angry that someone was trespassing on his property, but when the trooper invoked his official capacity as a member of law enforcement, he essentially surrendered his right to act as a private citizen and took on the burden of officer professionalism that comes with the authority. While it is likely that a court would find that the trooper did have the authority to detain the riders, there is an argument to be made that the trooper's unprofessional attitude and inability to control his anger exhibited too great of a personal stake in the encounter, and thereby negated the trooper's official authority. In that scenario, the trooper would still retain the limited authority of a private citizen, but much of his conduct would be invalid and potentially criminal. The trooper's demeanor was the deciding factor for this interaction, and it would be interesting to see how this encounter would play out if challenged in court. Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom get a C+, because although they did remain calm and compliant throughout the encounter, there is no doubt that they were trespassing and could have been cited for doing so. Not only did the riders trespass, but Mr. Hamilton openly admitted to seeing the posted signs and entering the property anyway. Considering that the trooper had identified himself as an officer at that point, Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom could have invoked their right to remain silent rather than answering that question. Constitutional rights are severely limited on private property, but since the trooper acted under the color of law, it would make sense that Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom would be entitled to constitutional protection. One thing the riders certainly did right was remaining calm and complying with the trooper's orders. Even if a court were to find that the trooper did not have the authority to detain the riders, their compliance with the trooper's orders will serve them well if they decide to sue the trooper for unlawful detainment. While I commend Mr. Hamilton and Mr. Idom for their patience and courteous temperament, the fact that they flagrantly broke the law cannot be ignored. Let us know if there's an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more police interaction content.